Welcome to Apaga University. I'm Inga.
And I'm Julie. We are two
momtrepreneurs
who have built an in-home care business from the ground up, guided every step of the way by God's care and fueled by agape love.
16 years later and over 100 podcast episodes already under our belts, we invite you to continue on this journey with us as we share stories that resonate, insights that inspire, and practical guidance that empowers you to face any obstacle along this path.
Whether you're a professional caregiver, a family member, or are simply curious about what your steps will be when you need them, you have come to the right place.
Oh, hey, and while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And after that, make sure you send this to a friend.
Yes, do it. All right, we'll quit fooling around and get to it.
Let's go. Class is in session.
Hello, sunshines, and hello, Julie. How are you?
I am grand.
How are you keeping up with your steps?
What
was the record of our trip? 11 miles one day?
I think,
or was it more than that?
A little bit more than that one day. Yeah.
So are you doing it?
Well, I was mowing my lawn last night, so I got some steps in there. But then when I ran out of gas, I did not go looking for more gas to finish the project. So I can probably get some more steps in tonight.
Yeah. So. Well, we had some friends come over. We do our boot camp, our sheep showmanship boot camp with the Middle Mists. And so when we flew in, picked them up, Kevin and Bailey picked me up and then got home, and then they came like shortly thereafter. So we've just had things to do. And so I've been able to keep my steps going.
Good.
But at some point, I feel like I'm just going to tip over and not be able to get back up.
Are you going 8 to 12 miles a day?
I am not going.
That's what
I didn't even know that a person could walk that many miles in a day until we were in New York.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I did know
One
that.
more block.
It's only one street over. We're on 37th. We just need to be on 38th.
Uh-huh.
But then you have to get to 38th, and then you have to go however many more blocks each way.
Yeah.
But I suppose once you get used to it, it's because I would not want to drive.
No.
So I would be walking everywhere also.
Righto.
We were very blessed to have a driver.
Drivers.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yes.
Enough about that.
Righto.
The verse. So the verse for today is Luke chapter 6, verse 31. And as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. So is that kind of like the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do to you?
Yep.
Yeah. And this is great. This is a wonderful thing to be talking about today because the topic is called Unscheduled Rant.
It's
unstructured.
A rant. We're going to get going.
Unstructured, unscheduled,
complete
rant.
chaos.
Because I'm so ticked off about some stuff that happened that is unnecessary.
So we're going to tell you about it.
And we're going to tell you all about it.
And give you our opinions, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, so if you need to check out, I get it. But anyway, I'm really fired up. What's your good news story?
Oh, just that the pandas are returning to the National Zoo in D.C.
Oh.
Yeah. Evidently that's a really big deal. And that we used to share or gift each other from the U.S. and China. And then when things got a little crazy with China, we didn't get any pandas, but the pandas are coming back.
Oh, wow.
So all must be good in the world because of pandas.
Is that what it said?
That's
or
the
that's
barometer.
Your take. That's your...
The barometer. Do we have pandas or not?
Okay.
Are we getting along?
Nice. We didn't go to the zoo when we were there, but that was an option on the list.
And what was interesting about that is my sister said that is part of the Smithsonian, so it's free to get in there. And because she lives there, she lives relatively close, where she said, some days I just think, I'm going to go say hi to the flamingos. She said she isn't there to do like a power trip through the whole thing.
Right.
She can go see the lions one day. She can come back and see the pandas,
right.
All of the things. And that was a different mindset for me to think about.
There's definitely no shortage of things to see, right? And it feels like you are just constantly just go, 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 go. But there's something everywhere.
Yeah.
And how cool would that be?
So cool.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Mine is actually not a good news story, but it is from my Daily Wisdom book by Julie Fournier. And it says, be willing to take a stand. So the first is a quote from Muffet McGraw. It says, the biggest attribute of a leader is the willingness to do what's right, even if the rest of the team doesn't see it that way.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to take a stand.
Yeah.
Being a great leader won't always make you popular, but it's going to make your team better. Accountability is uncomfortable. Some people hate being held to a high standard and will resent you for it. The challenge of leadership is being willing to be misunderstood and even disliked for the sake of the other person. A lot of times when we fail to hold others accountable, it's because we're being selfish. We fail to hold others accountable because it will make us uncomfortable. Be willing to be uncomfortable for others. Be willing to be disliked, misunderstood, and uncomfortable. Be willing to stand up for what's right. Be willing to do whatever it takes to make the team better. The reason that I picked this is because of the topic that we're going to be talking about today.
Right.
And for those of us that know us or me personally or closely, you know that we had a loss in our family, and Kevin's dad passed away. It was very fast, the way that everything happened, from the diagnosis to his passing. And what I wanted to talk about is the system and how ticked off I am about how failed his family was, from the hospital and then going home. And what's interesting is that when Mike first went into the hospital, I think he had been sick longer than maybe he was letting on, because he's very, very, just a strong, very, very strong individual, very stubborn, very strong-willed, very able to talk himself out of things. I think Kevin told me at one point that he might have talked himself out of a heart attack or something. Like, he just, he was special forces in the Army, and so very disciplined individual. So anyway, I say all that to say, I think maybe something was going on with him a little bit longer than any of us maybe necessarily knew. But once he got to the hospital, under the impression of like a diverticulitis flare up, and then some kidney stuff going on. Well, by the time, he had been there for a couple of days and tests had been run, it turned out that it was colon cancer. And so it just happened really, really fast. But throughout this, Kevin's brothers were able to, so brother John was able to go and spend the first week, the majority of it with dad being in the hospital. And the challenge is that even with Kevin and myself here being able to like coach and just give advice and guidance on what they needed to be asking of the hospital and the services that they needed to look for, and, making sure things were in place. Even with that, for someone like John, who this is not what he does every day of his life, it still can be overwhelming. And when you have a hospital system that is basically unwilling to, in my experience, so I would not say this, that it is unilateral, but in our experience, nobody was willing to be a leader, and nobody was willing to stand up and do what was right. Again, from our perspective, watching and knowing how it should happen when you go through this, because essentially, Mike had made a determination long ago that he wanted to be at home and home only. And so he would not ever do treatment if that's what it came to in his life. He was comfortable with where he was and ready to move on. So, when the hospital was made aware that he would not be going to rehabilitation, that he wanted to be able to go home, that he wanted to use the oncologist that he and his wife were established with, or his wife was established with, not the hospital's referral. All of these things, quite literally, it was don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. And I know that sounds crude, but that is really the approach. And that's everything that we saw happening. When this man went home, and just mind you, from diagnosis to his passing, we're talking like a month, right? So this was a very short period of time. So he was far along in his disease process, and it was far worse than they were ever, given the information for until we were able to connect with hospice. But coming out of that hospital system, there was no referral, nothing for home health, nothing for, I mean, not even occupational therapy. Like, okay, you're going to be moving differently in your house. You're going to have equipment. Nothing. No referrals for durable medical equipment, no referrals for hospice, nothing. I'm not even sure that an oncology referral was actually made until Kevin got there. John had his week with his dad, and then Kevin was able to get there and start sorting things out, just because, again, Kevin works with this, right? So he sees it every day. So he knows what to ask for and how to be, I don't want to use the term aggressive, because I don't feel like you have to be aggressive.
You shouldn't have to be.
You certainly shouldn't have to be aggressive, but just a little bit more knowledge on who do we need to ask and what services do we need to have in place. And I mean, this was so bad that, Mike goes home and no hospital bed, no other equipment in place for bathing, anything like that, other than what Betty had been able to do for him previously.
Sure.
But again, he's going home, and we're just expecting that Betty's going to be able to, move him and maneuver him and do everything to keep him safe and then keep her safe. Right. So at one point they're tired of waiting for this hospital bed, and nobody's communicating. And so they make the phone call, because the hospital's saying, oh no, we're just waiting for the approval from insurance. So however many days go by, and then a phone call gets made to insurance, and insurance is saying, I don't know what they're talking about. We don't have a referral. We have nothing. Yeah. So, I mean, and that to me is like, why? What caused this to happen? Because again, from our perspective as the family, we're looking at it going, pivotally, the moment is when they say, he just wants to go home.
Right.
Not going to your rehab. He just wants to go home.
Right.
And then instead of, from a social worker's perspective, instead of saying, okay, then we need to figure out how to safely get him home. We need to figure out what services need to be in place for him. And then, what does Betty need to be able to be successful? Obviously it's all for him and through him, but, it's wild, absolutely wild to me. So then, they get home, and Kevin wasn't quite there yet. And we're from this office trying to figure out, how do we help? Right. So we're, I'm advising, like, we'll call back to the hospital, see if they can get a hospice referral placed. And I don't know, but I do need to look at it and see if this is true or not. But they were basically told, well, he's not a patient anymore. So not our problem, nothing we can do. I mean, it was absolutely maddening and wild to me. And thankfully, Kevin was able to be there and navigate through some of those things. But what about the people that don't know?
Right. Did they have a social worker?
There was a social worker.
Well, she stunk it up big. She was no help to the family in such a critical time.
Right. And that's what I'm like, I cannot fathom or understand. Was this just a person that was inept at their job? Was this a person that did not care? Was this a culture within a hospital system that said, well, if they're not using our services, then it's not our problem?
Right.
But that's what I'm really trying to sort out, I guess, and understand, because and I always think about, what if this was your grandma, or what if this was your dad, or what if this was a family member of yours? Is that how you would behave?
Right.
Because you're the one who knows, and you're the one that has the power to be able to make these referrals and help coordinate these services. So why wouldn't you do it?
Right. And you can't be bothered.
You can't be bothered.
Yeah.
And then, after the fact, and then it's just like one lie on top of another.
Oof.
Like, oh, no, we placed that, or we did this, or we did that. And then you're finding out it's all kind of unraveling, and nothing that the family had been told out of the hospital system was accurate or truthful.
So was the hospice company, was it the only one in town? Was it associated with the hospital?
So I honestly do not even know how. I think Kevin and his mom worked together to coordinate with the hospice company, and I would say unbelievable. So good. Amazingly good. And once hospice was able to get what they needed for a referral, and I believe it came from the general doctor, they moved so fast. They had a hospital bed there probably within 24 hours. It just, and so I cannot speak
So
highly enough
to
about
get
hospice.
to them, though, was the biggest
It was the
problem.
issue of getting to hospice, and I don't understand.
Yeah.
I do not understand how a hospital system that has a dedicated social worker or discharge planner to help families, that's the job. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So why didn't you do it?
Yeah.
But the hospice agency was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
We cannot speak highly enough of them.
Huh.
They came in, they got equipment there. They, I don't want to say they immediately answered every phone call, but if a phone call was placed within, a very short amount of time, a nurse would call back. They were great about figuring out what to do with the medicines. They were super encouraging. They just, I can't speak highly enough of it.
So,
And
the process, though, to get them was the biggest concern.
yeah, and that's my rant, because I've heard about it here, and I mean we have our own set of complaints, I guess, about, I guess more so probably when the hospital still had a private duty portion of their business, where things are just getting funneled.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have legitimately heard of people being told, if you do not use our home health, then Medicare won't pay for it. And that is absolutely not true.
Right. No. And people need to understand that you, just like all of the TV commercials, you have the right to take your car to whatever mechanic.
Right.
You have the right to go with the company
Right.
that will do you the best in whatever your situation is, be it therapies or home health or hospice. Here in our town, we only have two options. One of them is affiliated with the hospital. We very much have a monopoly in this valley with the hospital. And the second hospital 15 miles up the road, unfortunately, got bought out by the big ones.
Right.
We just have a very few physicians that have been strong enough to stay independent.
Right.
And I will give all of my business to them if I can.
Right.
There are times that you fall into the hospital where you have to go and be with them. And there's no options.
Right.
But like you were saying with that monopoly, when they had private duty, we were never given as an option for home care.
Right.
And
No.
so then also what happens, and you and Kevin even had this situation where he ended up in the ER with an eye situation. Because they are taking federal monies, they are supposed to give you all of the options so you can choose the agency of your choice.
Right.
And so I wonder if that's some of what your family was caught in the middle of, just the politics of them pulling a fast one.
It seems like it, and it feels like that's what happened. It does not make any sense to me how, if we're going with their referrals, then we're happy to help. But once we say, hey, no, we want to use something different, then it's just literal boot in the butt.
And how many people want to just go home?
Yeah.
Till the end.
Yeah.
So let's embrace that and help these people to make the best of the worst things that they're going through in their life.
Don't just turn them loose.
No.
Don't just say good luck.
No.
I'm not even sure that they got a good luck.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, you have a responsibility to help these people go home as safely as they can. And there's no reason in my mind. There's just no reason to do that to someone. And I think sadly it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, was it a personal, this person was just like, I don't want to deal with that. Was it a political situation where, oh, well, we want you to go to our referral sources, and if you don't, we're not going to send it there? Like, it just makes no sense to me.
Right.
And especially at a time in someone's life where this is like, this is just a critical time in someone's life.
Sensitive on top of it.
Yeah, to send, like, I don't think they would want a rehospitalization, right? But I will say that I am grateful for a lot of the specialties that we have in our community, and a lot of, we do have some pretty cool medical stuff in this community.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, completely discount that. And basically some of what I saw where we were was very bizarre to me. So there is a small little hospital like in the town that they live in. And and he ended up having to go to that hospital. There was not even a doctor on staff.
Oh my goodness.
So they had to call the doctor. And then the diagnosis was just, I won't even say it out loud because I just can't. It was just like this, what? Put on a t-shirt was basically the answer. Just put on a t-shirt, you're just cold. I'm like, what?
Oh.
But anyway, so I'd never heard of a hospital that didn't have a doctor actually, like, I mean, I understand, like, maybe you don't have an OBGYN or a gynecologist, like
very special.
Right.
Yeah.
Like somebody to deliver the baby there. Like, I can understand that.
But not
person
one
being called
on
in, but not one at all. I was like,
oh no,
I don't understand. I don't understand.
No, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough. So back to the basics, and we've talked about this through how many podcasts have we done? Advocate.
Yes.
And thankfully your family had you and Kevin.
Yes.
But not everybody has that.
No.
And if you don't know, what do you do?
Well, and I was even thinking to myself, like, okay, what would my advice be? So really, I would think that even if you are not going to use home care, because that's another invasive thing, right? And that's another expensive thing. But call a home care agency and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to make sure that we're getting before we discharge home? Because they were just set up for failure, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't fail.
Yeah.
So, we showed you. But it was, there was no reason for it.
Right.
And I just worry for other people that it happens more than we know.
There isn't a day that goes by that we don't get a phone call of somebody asking for direction. And we're happy to spend that time with them, even if they're not appropriate for our programs.
Right.
We try to find them we give them phone numbers of other places to go looking, because what your family went through should never happen to anybody ever.
Right. No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. It's so, you just feel so desperate, right?
Yeah.
And like hopeless, really, because you're just worried about all of the things and trying to get things in place, and then you're not getting any assistance at all from, I mean, zero assistance from the hospital. I will say that the staff, the nurses, phenomenal. So I don't want to take away from that, the care while he was in.
It was the process.
It was the process. And it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I guess that was my rant. So if you find yourself in a situation where, you have a loved one that wants to go home and the hospital is not being helpful, you might not even know that they're not being helpful. But I would highly recommend reaching out to someone, again, like a home care agency like ours. We can just offer input and advice and guidance on how to discharge appropriately, so that you don't end up in a worse place.
Well, and this just proves that it can even happen to professionals, because we've been doing this for many, many years now. And then to have it happen to your own family, you're just like, wait a minute, step back here. What is going on? And no.
Right.
No. And we're strong enough to ask those questions and get down and dirty if we have to. But just get out there and ask questions. Call everybody until you have found somebody that can help you.
Yeah, I know. And I know that I would never have the opportunity to be able to do this because of HIPAA, but I really, really just want to reach out to that social worker and say, why? Why did it go down this way? Like, is this standard procedure for your institution, or were you having a bad day, or what happened?
Goodness.
Because I don't want to, 100% just say that this is just one individual, right? Because my guess is that it's a culture within the system.
It usually is.
It usually is. But it shouldn't happen like that. It shouldn't happen like that to anybody.
No.
And thankfully, like, we've got a very strong family, and the boys were able to be there and help their parents. And so that, like, it was the best outcome out of a bad situation, really. But it's just unnecessary. Some of the stuff that they went through, and the fights that they had to fight, when they should have been able to just be home and, cherishing the time that they had. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm so sorry that happened. That just really sucks.
Every situation, I think, becomes an opportunity to, like, talk and discuss and advocate and teach and educate. And so it stinks that it happened, and I'm so sorry that it happened, but it turned out the best that it could Yeah, the circumstances.
Under the circumstances,
Yeah.
well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
And I just wish people would be better.
Yep. Yeah, be a leader. And maybe this individual just didn't feel like they wanted the pushback from other sources. But
Right.
I just can't. I could never, in good conscience or good faith, just turn someone loose and
No.
nope.
No.
Good
Well,
luck.
that's why our business runs like it does.
I agree.
Because we will not let that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Even when we can't serve somebody because of location or whatever, we'll help as much as the family will let us
right.
get them to a wherever is
To the next
appropriate.
place.
Yeah.
True story.
So.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for listening to my ranting.
Anytime, Inga. Yes. So the phrase that I have for today is opportunity seldom rises with blood pressure. And it says temper your blood pressure. Staying grounded will allow more opportunity, because stress is that major problem with blood pressure. And so you just got to work yourself to keep calm and just keep trudging along.
I just was watching a sitcom. I think it was last night, just a little snippet of it. And the character was not wanting to do something. So he was at his doctor's getting the physical or whatever. And and his blood pressure came back good. And he's like, no, it's gotta be bad. Just a minute. And he calls his mom, gets in a little, back and forth with her and is okay, take it now. And then the blood pressure is just skyrocketed.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I thought it was
that's
funny.
very funny.
Yeah.
So,
Alrighty. Well,
very good.
Thanks. Not a super uplifting topic necessarily, but
I think people
hopefully
need to hear about this because if it happens to them, at least they know that maybe they've learned something to self-advocate, especially for their loved one. I mean, honestly, you've got to be on top of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Okay. Well, that's it. Peace out, Girl Scouts.
have a good day.
The Caregiven name is a registered trademark of the Veritrust Health Incorporated Company. IPAGA is not connected to, affiliated with, or endorsed by Veritrust or any of its affiliates.